Right, let's jump straight into this explainer and shatter a pretty huge illusion about something we literally use every single day. We're diving into the hidden mechanics of meaning, pulling from the insights of linguist David Crystal to show you why studying language isn't just some dusty academic exercise. It's actually a vital tool for solving some of our most critical, everyday human problems. You know the argument, right? We hear it all the time. Since language just kind of naturally grew with us as we developed, and since we obviously already understand our friends, studying it seems completely unnecessary. You might be thinking, look, I've been speaking for years. I'm doing fine. Why on earth do I need a formal study on something I totally take for granted? On the surface, I get it. That reasoning feels pretty attractive. But as you'll see, it's actually deeply flawed. I mean, think about it like this. This brilliantly illustrates David Crystal's core counter-argument. Just because you naturally possess an organ or a skill, that doesn't mean you have the expertise to fix it when it breaks. The logic is exactly the same. I've had a beating heart in my chest for my entire life, but you absolutely do not want me performing heart surgery on you. And I wouldn't have the first clue how to diagnose a hole in one. Simply speaking a language doesn't magically give you the ability to diagnose or treat a speech disorder. The structure of language is just as complex to study as the structure of the human body. Okay, Section 1, When Language Fails, Diagnosing Language Pathology. Imagine a scenario where language just suddenly vanishes. Due to a stroke or brain damage from an accident, people can literally lose their ability to speak overnight. It's terrifying. And think about infants, right? If a baby's cry sounds unusually shrill, or if they hit 18 months and there's still no clear first word, parents understandably panic. Is it a developmental delay? Is it deafness? When these crises hit, they require urgent, highly specialized therapy and a really precise diagnosis. Here's the kicker. A doctor or a speech therapist cannot just guess their way through these disorders. Imagine going to a doctor and they start looking for a heartbeat on the right side of your chest. Yeah, that wouldn't inspire much confidence. In that exact same way, you simply can't diagnose linguistic abnormality without a deep baseline understanding of linguistic normality. You absolutely have to know how language is structured, how it develops, and how it normally functions before you can even think about prescribing a course of treatment. Moving on to Section 2, the medical and global divide, the semantic curtain. So let's look at everyday miscommunications, like the doctor-patient divide. It is amazingly easy to be unintentionally misunderstood. Doctors constantly struggle to formulate a diagnosis in words that the patient will actually grasp without causing, a total panic. A doctor might casually describe a physical state as a growth, using it as a purely neutral medical term. But for the patient, the word growth is incredibly loaded. It carries a huge, immediate association with cancer. So without realizing it, the doctor just accidentally triggered massive, unnecessary anxiety. And that brings us to a wonderfully relatable frustration. As T.S. Eliot's character, Sweeney, so humorously points out here, we are kind of trapped. We have to use these inherently vague, subjective words to describe our most complex internal sensations and thoughts. Whether we're trying to describe a weird physical ache to a physician or our emotional reaction to a piece of music, words are often just blunt instruments. Now, scale that up to global politics. This inherent vagueness creates what's called a semantic curtain. People used to say the Iron Curtain was also a semantic curtain, literally a barrier where meanings struggled to get through. Terms like freedom, progressive, or democratic are not universal math formulas. They are highly, highly relative. They carry good, bad, or totally neutral overtones depending entirely on which part of the world you happen to be raised in. Section 3, Corporate Miscommunications, the High Cost of Words. Let's pivot to the business world, where there are massive traps for the unwary communicator. A huge one is defined right here, the clothed imperative. This is when a manager uses an ambiguous statement to imply an order. Saying, well, the files haven't arrived yet, sounds like a simple observation, right? But the hidden command is actually, find the files right now. Management hopes they're giving a clear order, but actually, scratch that. They aren't clear at all. They just create a huge cloud of ambiguity. And when those files aren't found, who can really be blamed for the mix-up? This kind of connotation clash literally sparks strikes. Management throws around a word like automation or work study, and in their heads it means efficiency and productivity, a real win-win. But the shop floor hears something completely different. They hear a threat of redundancy and slave driving. If management blithely tosses these terms around without a second thought about the receiver's point of view, a single word can practically set off a strike. So, how do we actually fix this mess? The antidote to these industrial breakdowns starts with realizing that in business, silence is definitely not golden. Silence just breeds ignorance, which leads to people jumping to completely wrong conclusions. Management has to actively study how their words land. They need to clarify those industrial vogue words like morale and motivation that just act like smokescreens. They have to strip away the unnecessary technical jargon, and most importantly, you have to consider the receiver's point of view. Successful communication is ultimately decided by what happens at the receiving end.
Which brings us to Section 4, the science of linguistics, solving human problems.
This is exactly why David Crystal's work in linguistics is such a game changer. The field of linguistics isn't just, theory for the sake of theory. It provides the formal scientific foundation we need to understand all of these underlying mechanics we've been talking about today. It takes the study of language from amateur guesswork and turns it into a rigorous, problem-solving discipline. It all boils down to this crucial point. Whether it's a doctor trying not to absolutely terrify a patient, a business manager trying to avoid $1 million strike, a speech therapist helping a delayed child, or even a teacher explaining a foreign language, we absolutely must study the mechanics of language before we can ever effectively apply it. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating reality to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. We've seen today that words have the raw power to break down our bodies, paralyze our businesses, and literally divide our world. So taking all of that in, how carefully are you examining the language you use every single day? It's definitely something worth thinking about. Thanks for exploring the mechanics of meaning with me.